Thank you all for being here. Tonight is a culmination of a year's work between both myself and the amazing team at JDRF, and I feel extremely humbled to be standing in front of you all, knowing that everyone's here for one reason. To have a good time, that goes without saying, but for something far more important. You're here to raise money for Alina and all the other brave little stars like her who live with type 1, and that really is quite something. As Alina is such a lover of fairy tales, I feel compelled to tell you one tonight. There has always been something rather wonderful about a land of make-believe, so welcome to our enchanted forest, the most wondrous in all the kingdom. Hopefully you will have noticed the unicorn upstairs, and if you look very closely at some of the table centres, you'll see fairies dancing amongst the flowers. We are surrounded by everything that is magical, beautiful, and innocent. But listen, there is an eerie silence, a sign that not everything is as it seems. The kindest and most courageous of all the princesses has been struck down by a curse like no other. It is the spell we can't escape. It pervades every part of our lives, and at times, it threatens Alina's very existence. 3 years ago, at the age of just 2.5, type 1 diabetes took hold of her and our lives as we knew them, and hasn't let go since. It affects adults and children suddenly and without warning, leaving them dependent on a daily regime of insulin injections or pump infusions and blood tests just to stay alive. Nothing a child with type 1 or their parents could have done would have prevented it developing. They are just unlucky, and it will stay with them for life. Where she used to have the freedom, like all children, to eat what she wanted, that has been replaced by a constant monitoring of every single thing that passes her lips, with each carbohydrate counted down to the last gram. Cakes being given out at break time get replaced by carrots, and instead come home in crumpled napkins to eat under supervision, in order to avoid a rush of sugar and the unmanageable damage that this would take the rest of the day to undo, all combined with her being a human pincushion. There is quite literally no respite. To put it into numbers, it's estimated that a child diagnosed with type 1, age 5, faces around 19,000 injections by the time they're 18 years old. That's a fairly sobering statistic. The experiences I talk about tonight are not just mine and Charlie's, but hundreds of thousands of parents caring for children living with the same heavy burden, many of whom are here tonight, and with whom I feel a particular camaraderie. Fellow parents struggling on a daily basis to keep our beautiful and precious children safe. When I stood here 2 years ago, I couldn't have imagined that dealing with her illness could have got any harder than at that time. She was just 2.5, barely able to talk, let alone communicate to us when she was feeling high or low. But yet here we are, 3.5 years on since diagnosis, still trying to understand the never-ending complexities that come with this disease. We have since moved from injections onto an insulin pump, which has made a huge difference on how we deal with her condition, and is an example of how the methods used in achieving stable blood sugars are improving hugely. Anyone living with or looking after a child with type 1 has one very simple goal: to have a blood glucose reading of between 4 to 8 millimoles per litre throughout the day. It sounds simple enough, just follow the rules. Test her blood every 2 hours from the minute she wakes up until she goes to bed, and more often than not, through the night. Weigh all her food and work out the carb content. She now has a packed lunch at school, as after a month of having to weigh the hot meal every day, I almost had a nervous breakdown. Type in the number of the carbs in the blood sugar reading into the pump, and let the pump she wears on her tummy deliver the correct dose of insulin from the pre-filled cartridge through the cannula in her bottom. Easy. Test, eat, repeat. Test, eat, repeat. A process we have done more than 10,000 times since she was diagnosed. So what's all the fuss about? If only it were that simple. The reality is that there are so many factors beyond our control, which seem to be increasing the older she gets, and which affect her blood sugar levels to dangerous extremes. After the initial worry of handing over responsibility when she started school, it's been a release for me being able to let go of control since she started last September. But a day does not go by without me receiving 3 or 4 text messages from her teachers to ask me how they should treat her hugely unpredictable blood readings. A little girl starting a new school can experience every emotion possible in the space of just a few hours, each of which can throw us completely. A run-of-the-mill finger prick test can result in a reading so high or low that panic stations must kick in. Luckily, she is extremely hyposensitive, so before she usually reaches a dangerous low, she becomes very pale and weepy and complains of severe hunger, so we know to give her some form of glucose immediately. Having seen her unconscious 3 times, I cannot underestimate the seriousness of a hypo. Wherever she goes, her glucose tabs go with her. They are as life-saving to her as an inhaler is to an asthmatic. The highs can often be more problematic, and when either the school or babysitter call to tell me she's over 17 or 18, my heart just sinks, and what lies ahead is usually a good 2 hours of frantic calls, giving instructions on how to bring her down. Charlie and I became doctors overnight and are on call 24/7, 365 days a year, regardless of where we are or what we're doing, and that can take its toll on being a parent, on a marriage, on friendships. I'm endlessly leaving work, lunches, or dinners early, or worse, cancelling altogether. So thank you, my wonderful friends, for bearing with me. An everyday cold can mean a week off school, and a sick bug often ends with a trip to the hospital. The pressure is immense. Her life is literally in our hands. We live with the knowledge that injections are life-saving, blood tests are ever present, and that failure to get it right today risks devastating complications tomorrow. That is why JDRF is working so hard to find ways to detect and prevent type 1 before it can burden more lives. It's not a death sentence, but at times it sure feels like a life sentence. Her blood sugars have also started having a severe effect on her behavior as she gets older. A prolonged period of highs or lows usually results in a fit of anger and rage that is almost unbearable to witness. Kicking, screaming, biting, almost feral in nature, but which is so out of character and therefore all the more heartbreaking to watch. Luckily, most of the time she has no memory of the fit, but sadly the same cannot be said for us, and the guilt that we're responsible for her behavior is ever present. To make it worse, she has started to question it more, asking why can't she be normal like her friends, screaming about how much she hates having diabetes, and often refusing to let me do a new cannula. At times like this, I have to fight back the tears and instead step up as fairy godmother, conjuring up glitter pens or unicorn notebooks for when a little sparkly bribery becomes a necessity. But I know she would give back all the presents and all the special attention in a heartbeat if it meant she didn't have to live in this way. You try not to let it define you or your child, or worse, your entire family, but it's hard. There are so many adults here tonight with type 1, and I am so truly honored to have you here showing your support. I respect and admire you all hugely, how you make it fit into your busy lives without letting it define them. And it is hugely inspirational, making me less afraid of when the time will come for Alina to take control herself and for me to let her go. Fortunately, Sugarplum Children has become an outlet for us to turn something terrible into something wonderful, to be here with all our friends, both old and new, and for Alina to come and be here tonight and know that she is the driving force behind something that will ultimately help to change lives. And by being here, you are doing just that. My aim was always to raise £1 million for JDRF, and I know that with everyone's help here tonight, this is entirely achievable. Where there is a will, there is a way, and as any parent of a child who is seriously ill will tell you, our wills are stronger than most. So here I stand, dressed in my armor, war paint on my face, and ready for battle. So you better watch out, Type 1, because I'm coming for you. Since the last Sugarplum dinner in 2013, some amazing things have happened to give me hope that the day we will conquer is drawing nearer. A year ago, a scientist at Harvard, Dr. Doug Melton, whose both son and daughter have type 1, and who has dedicated his life to finding the cure, found a way to mass-produce essential insulin-producing cells for the first time. This is a step that is an absolutely vital part of the jigsaw for finding the cure. It was heralded by the media as a cure at last for diabetes. Sadly, and against all of my hopes, this is not quite the case. But it was a true breakthrough which has accelerated progress and given hope to everyone touched by type 1. However, breakthroughs like this come at a price. JDRF alone invested £1.6 million in Dr. Melton's discovery. Since then, they have given him £2.8 million to help progress this essential research to the next stage. And this is just one of 465 projects around the world that JDRF is supporting today to one day make a world without type 1 a reality. So just for tonight, let's go back to living in the fairy tale. The one where the spell has been broken and there are no more blood tests, injections, highs or lows. If Alina believes in unicorns, we must surely all believe that there will be a cure during her childhood. She may be a little bit too young for a life-changing kiss from her true love, but just by being here tonight and giving so generously, you are all showing her something far greater, an act of true love which will eventually break the curse and give her and all the princes and princesses like her the fairy tale ending they so deserve. So keep shining bright, little stars, and know that a time will come very soon when you won't have to be quite as brave. Thank you.